We're here on Hearty Chats, and Hearty Chats is where we have our experts and our moms who come and share insights about things that matter close to our heart. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been focusing on nurturing mental, emotional wellness for our children. And this week, we actually focused on self-esteem. So 2 days ago, we had a Chinese educator who shared with us about self-esteem, how to build confidence. And it's really when you help a child build that small step of confidence, they start to get more motivated to keep going, isn't it, Anna? So
totally
today we have Anna joining us. Hey, and Anna
Hi.
is the founder and chief coach of Strider Kids Coaching. And Anna, you've been coaching as a performance coach for over 16 years, with a lot of corporate experience, right?
I've been coaching corporate for over 5 years. It's just I work in the corporate world.
I see. Okay, wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So can you clear there?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay. And so tell us a little bit more how did you get into this coaching kids, Strider Kids Coaching? How did you get into this?
Yes, so you mentioned, I started off as performance coach for the adults. So I work with executives and managers on how they can improve on their personal life as well as their career. But then it's just that after working with adults for a number of years, then you start to see the recurring problem, and a lot of them actually, been stuck on limiting beliefs and all those blocks that were actually created during the formative years. So that's when I thought, perhaps if we go back and help our kids, then that's where we can create a better, an easier journey for our kids in the future.
Definitely, I totally agree with you, because a lot of how we interact with people and make decisions as adults, it's all from our past experiences and our memories. And it goes all the way back to childhood or growing up years. So definitely a lot of things we pick up there affects how we deal with people as working adults. So I totally agree with you. So today we're going to talk about how we can help our children set realistic goals that build confidence. What is your take on this?
First we're talking about how does society affect the expectations that that parents have on our children, and the expectation that children have on themselves, right? So my take is that, look, we live in this highly competitive society, and we have an economy that's been globalized, and which is great, it creates a lot more opportunities for us, but it also means that our kids won't be just competing with their own countrymen. They will be competing with the wider parts of the world as well. And on top of that, we're also living in a country that has an education system that tops the global ranking year after year. Right? It's something that I'm sure that as a nation we're proud of, but then at the same time, we're also living in that system as parents. So it's easy to feel that pressure for our kids to excel, or even to survive in that system, of that kind of standard. And so that leaves many of us feeling as parents as though we don't really have a choice but to go along with it and to give whatever tuitions that our kids need in order to keep their grades up, So all these create this culture of emphasizing very heavily on performance and results. So take us parents as example, when we look at each other's kids, right? When we look at our friends or relatives' kids, it's almost always about what their achievements are, right, isn't it? So it's always about whose son is an all-A student, or whose daughter is an award-winning champions of some sort, right? People don't normally go, oh, those kids, they put in a lot of effort and they practice 5 hours every day diligently to get to where they are. So it's usually very focused on them, or all those amazing things that they're achieving. So kids pick that up too.
Yes.
And adding to that are all those social media that our children are exposed to. Yeah, and those give them a false sense of how things should be, like, you know, how they should look like or how the life should look like, and leading many of these children to feeling as though they're not enough, you know, they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough or skinny enough, and all those sort of things sort of create that sense of false sense of standards that, you know, they feel like they have to live up to.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes, I just feel that at the end of the day, though, we can point to all our educational system, how the school's giving too much work and being overly performance orientated and social media and all that. But at the end of the day, we can't ignore the fact that parental expectation is still found to be, you know, the most critical role actually in children's motivation and self-expectations.
Yes. I have to agree with you on that. So you mentioned a few factors that affect a child's, you know, confidence and also their own expectations on themselves. You talked about parents, you talked about schools, society, social media, also their peers. So I'm one of the parents that I find that one of my kids has very high expectation on herself, not because of me, but because of the people, the friends that she mixes with. And, you know, they want to achieve such and such thing, they want to go to such and such a school, and then it gives that pressure on her. So like what you said, yes, parents play a really big role. It's either I go with her and go, yeah, let's go achieve that, or I go like, hey, hang on, you know, there's other things that we can emphasize on. And that could really shift the way she puts that kind of pressure on herself or not. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. How is it important, you know, to build confidence and self-esteem in children in this respect?
How is it important?
Or why is it important? Sorry.
Oh, why is that important? Oh, okay. Yeah, they are very important. You know, we know very well that, you know, self-esteem and self-confidence, they're both our own perception of ourselves, right? The difference is that for self-esteem, it's related to our perception of our worth, our values, and sort of like our price tag to ourselves, right? And the self-confidence is the perception of our abilities to succeed. But then if we sort of stop and put things in perspective a bit and notice how this world has changed so much since we were kids, notice, you know, what are the things that truly matters to our kids' future. So if we look back at how technology has come about and changed our lives in just the last 20 years, you know, at that time, Google was just starting out, and companies like where we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all these didn't even exist yet. There wasn't any smartphones like the ones that we use, and of course, no Netflix, right? Which is quite scary to think that a world no Netflix. But then in 1999, the US Department of Labor, they actually reported that 65% of school children were going to work in jobs that didn't exist at that time. And that was 21 years ago. So I wonder what will the next 20 years look like when our children reach their working age? You know, what can we expect for them? What's going to be what are things that they're going to have to face? Don't even have to answer to that, because we can't even begin to predict what our children will be facing in the next 20 years. So the thing that we know is that many of our children will end up working in jobs that haven't even been invented yet. Right? So we know that they will have to be able to manage changes at a pace that we never had to. Then the question is, how do we prepare our kids for something that we don't even know? So when it comes to that, I'll say, in addition to academic achievement, 3 things top my list. Right? Number 1 is responsibilities. Number 2, mental resilience. 3 is adaptability. And all these 3 things actually go hand in hand with self-esteem and self-confidence. Yeah, you need one to get to the other, right? Yes, take responsibility for instance. When we take responsibility for our own life, our self-esteem increases too. So we immediately feel that sense of empowerment, that we're responsible, and we can make these changes for ourselves, right? And when we take the steps to actually make these changes for ourselves, that builds self-confidence. And so that's how it all interrelated and all interlinks. And so they're really, you know, that's how I feel that because of the future that they're going to have to face, we don't know what it's going to be, and you know, what kind of jobs do we prepare them for, you see. So these are extremely important for them.
That's a really important point, yeah, because it's so important for the future, because we just can't tell what's happening now.
Yes.
I mean, even with even with the current pandemic, it's unpredictable, and a lot of businesses have been, you know, needed to adapt. Even in terms of learning, you have to change. The teachers have to change their style of interacting with the children in class. It all requires a lot of flexibility. And together with that, it's all your confidence and self-esteem. Because if you're not even there, you can't even make a change. You're not motivated to even want to change and adapt to what's going on.
Exactly. And yes, and when children have that healthy level of self-esteem and self-confidence, they feel good about who they are in general. They be around as well, right? And they generally respond better in challenging situations. They make the leaders. They're able to manage the self-doubts better. And, you know, I think very important is that they are more positive in managing changes, because they believe that they have the ability to overcome whatever comes their way. Yes. You know, and so they're more likely to look past their mistakes as well, because because they believe that they can do better the next time. So yeah, so that's why those two are extremely important in preparing our children for the future that's awaiting them.
I like what you said about looking past your mistakes, because that's so important. You know, that's the only way you can improve and progress, if you're willing to look past your mistakes. Instead of being stuck there and like, oh, I can't do it, I can't make it, you know, that will be
exactly really totally.
Okay, so what can parents do to help their child, you know, set realistic goals for themselves and their children?
Well, I always say the first thing is to make sure that we have that strong parenting house. I came from a construction background, so I was trained in construction management, and I work in the construction industry for over 16 years. So naturally, I think of parenting similar to building a house. You know, when it comes to building that house, right, it doesn't matter if you're building a multi-story building or a little cozy house. You need to make sure that the foundation of your house is nice and strong before you start building, you know, anything is on top of it. So if the foundation isn't strong and solid, anything you build on top of that, it might look beautiful at first, but then it will eventually tumble to the ground, and that's what we do. So I'd say the first step is to make sure that your foundation is strong, is there. So when we talk about parenting, we talk about, you know, love, connection, trust. So all these make up the foundation of your parenting house, right? Just children must know without doubt that they are loved by us no matter what, and that, you know, they're important to us, and this is to meet one of their most basic needs. They need to know that no matter what, we hold that safe space for them.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we have that strong connected relationship, it's actually much easier to have the kind of positive response and that cooperation that all of us parents want from our kids. You see. So for step 2, so once you have the foundation, it's about building the frameworks and the walls to shape your house. So the frames of that house would, you know, give you that shape to your house and to keep your house upright. And values that we cultivate in our child. Values such as confidence, compassion, respect, and all these great things, right? These things are what shape them and support them, and be that inner compass to guide them through life. And then the walls to our house is the purpose of that is to keep all the good things in safe and keep the bad things out, right? These are the foundation and disciplines that we, you know, sort of like our expectation to help our child understand what is and what isn't acceptable behaviors. And, you know, like our house, these are the things that give them a sense of safety and security. Yeah, and these are the 2 basic steps. So the quality of how your child responds to you in the step 2 really depend largely on how strong your foundation is in the step. Right.
So what's the three steps again? Foundation?
The foundation, the walls and the frames of the house. Yeah. And then come back to your question when it comes to setting realistic expectations and goals for ourselves as parents and our kids. My take is that we know that unrealistically high expectations do more harm than good to us and to our kids. Right? But then at the same time, when we have very low or no expectation for our child, it will also affect their self-esteem. And it can also leave them feeling like a lack of purpose and a lack of direction. Right? So the trick is to find this healthy balance that is high for our child, but not so high that it is overwhelming to both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, ultimately, children, they want the parents to believe that they are capable too.
Yes.
So, yeah, so they want to have that level up in terms of our expectation for them. And, one thing is, you know, parents, we can get into a stage where we stress ourselves up when we compare our kids to the other kids of the same age. Just say, you know, comparing a 7-year-old to another 7-year-old, and then set our expectation based on where they should be, then, you know, that is really setting ourselves up to more stress, and also for our kids to be more stressed as well, because every child develops differently and at different rates.
Yes.
So I think what helps is to get involved with your child and really get to know your child's current developmental stage. Get to know them in terms of their, you know, what are their strengths? What are their realistic potentials? Then set your expectation to a level above their current level. So for example, if your child's reading level is at 8, say, and, you know, set a goal for your child to, say, achieve level 9, and then sit down together to work out how they can, you know, get there and how you can support them to get there. So these are, to me, it's a more realistic expectation.
Yes, I like that. So if they're scoring a B, you want to challenge them to an A.
Yes.
But not from a C to an A. Or A+.
So it's also what's the potential that you can see in them. I believe that a lot of us can see it, but whether we can accept it. Yes, and the second one, obviously, is to set expectations based on effort rather than performance. So set learning goals rather than performance goals. Yeah, take our my earlier example about the reading, right? So just say when your child passes the reading assessment to the next level, reinforce that about how their practice and their efforts have helped them achieve that level up. And it's not about praising how clever, you know, what a clever boy they are or what a smart girl they are. You know, it's telling them instead how their effort and how their commitment to practice every day have gotten them there to this level. So celebrate that improvement and progress. Remember we said earlier about confidence. Solid confidence is achieved by actions that they take. It's not by what we tell them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
I really like this.
Yeah, so these are my 2 steps. And there was one study that was done on 800 families of students who scored at and above the 97th percentile on a grade 5 level achievement test. So what they found is quite interesting. They found that most of these high achievers have at least one or both parents focus on learning goals, not performance. Because when we think about high achievers, we normally think about, oh, you know, the parents must be the driving force behind that and having all those expectations. But this study have found that, you know, it's actually not the case. And with those few children within this group, with both parents focus on performance goal, they show up to be experiencing this higher level of pressure they're more likely to worry about making mistakes. They are more likely to doubt about their own actions, and they experience this more stress about their parents' expectation of them and the parents' criticism of them. Yeah, I just thought to mention that study because I find that quite interesting.
Yeah.
Findings they have.
Yes. I really love when you say learning goals, because learning is really a journey. You never stop learning. And so putting learning goals, it makes so much more sense than just, a result-oriented kind of goal. So I really like that.
Exactly.
I've
Yes.
written that on my paper, learning goals.
Oh, did you? Yes, because if we think about it, right, if everything a child does has to reach a certain performance standard, then activity is going to be fun anymore.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
So yeah, go out and, cultivate this love of learning together with your child.
Yeah, that's so important.
Learning,
totally agree.
Exactly. Learning new things together.
Oh, yes. I've learned so much. See, even just by talking to you today. Thank you so much for your sharing, Anna. So, our group is about Hearty Mums. And to me, a Hearty Mum is someone who is, happy, fulfilled. And because of that, she in turn is able to also nurture hearty and thriving children. So I'd like to hear from you. What do you think constitutes a Hearty Mum?
I think striking that balance between, as being a mum, of course, we're a mum, and then Anna as well, Anna, the performance coach, and the Strider Kids coach, and a wife, a friend. So I think all these identities that really make us whole, and the fact that, I'm very fortunate in finding something that I love in my career, as my career. So, so I'm very fortunate in that. And also being a mum, I find that I learned so much from my child about me, you see. So it actually taught me a lot about myself as a person, as a mum, as a coach, and everything in one actually. So it's bound back to here. It's really all about learning all the time, always progressing, always learning. And that's what makes me happy.
Okay. I was going to ask you, what's one thing you do to keep yourself happy every day?
I love my morning routine. Really set me up for the day. So, just having that bit of time in the morning to myself and doing that same thing every day, it's what makes me happy. Yeah, that's part of the joy of the day. And of course, my husband and I always talk about, we have so much love for my babies at home. It just, being grateful, I suppose, for what we have in our house, and that's something that reminds us to be happy with what we have every single day.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that morning routine and being gratitude.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I'm also one that I'm very into morning routines as well. I find it on days where my children are, on holidays or they're home, and if I don't wake up earlier so that I can have that time for myself, everything is a bit of a mess. So I do treasure my morning routine as well. I wake up a little bit earlier so that I can have that quiet time, and it makes a difference for me. Definitely.
Yes.
Yay,
exactly. Great. And you sort of feel like, something's not wrong. I mean, something's not quite right after a while if you miss the morning for a few days.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Okay, so if moms would like to connect with you to your work and what you do, would you be able to share a link in the comments later so that people can connect to you?
Yes, sure. Yes, sure. We also have a PDF that talks about, more about that house, the parenting house that I was talking about.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, and that would be from the link, or you would be able to attach a PDF? Or
they will be able to download from our website at striderkidscoaching.com.
Okay, we'll pop that in the comments later so they can contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your chat today. It was really, really insightful. Picked up a lot of things, especially the learning goals. So I'm gonna Yep. Keep an eye on that. So thank
Well,
you everyone who
thank
came.
you.
Yeah. And all those
Thanks for
listening
having
in.
me.
Yeah. Thank you. And all those who are going to watch the replay, check out the comments later. All right. So we're going to sign up
Okay.
now. Bye. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.